This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Thank you, David. Well, yes, the Apple Day drawing to a close at 4:30 today here at the ballroom. But as busy as ever, you know, the rain, I guess, draws people in anyway, and it's good for the fruit.
But isn't it fantastic? We've had such a dry summer. But ironically, the apples have been really good this year. We've had bumper crops of really big apples. So how do they do it? I think they've got a really good root system.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. I mean, looking at all the local varieties as well, though. We always say about 300 varieties. But looking at Allington, the Barnock ones, of course, some of the Pippins that are here as well today. So many local varieties in our area.
Well, we're celebrating the local heritage. That's what it's all about, really. We don't need to buy all these imports. Not that I'm a Brexiteer.
No, let's not get on to that. But yes, I know what you mean. Food miles and stuff like that. And the fact we're growing it locally, it's all quite easy to grow apples, isn't it?
Yeah. And our aim, I suppose, is to encourage people both to value the local heritage, to really understand that the wildlife value of orchards and fruit trees is so important, particularly for bees, honeybees, which we're losing dramatically, but also for the use of apples. They can be used and made by people into so many things, and on display here and in some of the workshops we've run, and we're going to be running over the next month or so, we can show people how to make pasteurised juice, cider vinegar, apple butter, apple cheese, etc. I mean, it's such a versatile crop. And of course, we're really pleased that we got an Awards for All lottery grant, because we're now able to offer to local schools and local villages and community groups free apples, apple trees to plant new orchards in their grounds.
And there's a lot of children here today, aren't there? A lot of children getting involved in peeling the apples, actually, making the apple juice outside in the marquee just there.
Yeah, we've got a lot of activities set up for children. We know that there are so many families that are interested in working on this sort of activity in a combined way.
Fabulous stuff. The 15th Apple Day. It's drawing to a close at 4. If you're quick, you'll be able to pop down and see the amazing things that have been here today at the Arts Centre.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Bailey.
And what year are you in at Brook Priory?
Year 3.
You actually won the race, the full race. How was the course today?
Hard.
In what way?
Hilly.
Are you a big runner generally?
Yeah.
Were you surprised to win? How would you describe this whole event, just looking at it here with a sea of people? Is it a bit mind-blowing?
Yeah.
And representing Oakham School, what year are you in then?
We're in lower 1, which is year 6 basically.
How was it for you today?
I haven't run for a week because I had a pain in my foot, so yeah, it was hard.
You've literally just come in, so hence why you're slightly out of breath. What's your name?
I'm Betsy. I'm Bibi.
You're twins and you came in first and second. It just shows how evenly matched you are. Is that normal work?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it's a bit of a difference of places, but...
Are you both big runners?
Sometimes. We're not a big fan of it, but we're good at it though. So that's the problem. My mum always says you have to do it because you're good at it, and we just don't want to do it.
So what kind of sports do you enjoy?
Gymnastics. I like sprinting. Hockey, netball. Yeah.
So running-wise, you'd rather it was a shorter distance, basically?
Yeah.
About 1 mile and 3/4. How does that feel?
I've done it more before, but it feels a lot longer than it was. Yeah.
It's the uphill on the way back, isn't it? I can see that.
Kills you. It makes you feel like it's like 2k. Yeah. When it's only 1.7.
But quite amazing, though. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Charlotte and I'm in year 5.
Year 5 at Langham?
Yeah.
You won today's year 5 race. How does that feel?
Good.
Were you expecting to win?
Yeah.
You were? You're quite often out front. What sports do you do apart from running?
Cycling, swimming, triathlon, duathlon, horse riding and trampolining.
And which is your favourite?
Triathlon.
Wow. Is that actually like an adult triathlon? In terms of the sports that you do?
Yeah. But it's just shorter.
How long have you been doing that?
You can only start doing it when you're in Tri-Start, which is when you're in year 3. You could start doing it when you're 7. And I've done it since I was 7. This is my 3rd year of doing it.
And what would be your big tips on winning the cross country today? Because this is a pretty hilly course, isn't it? You know, going right down the hill, but then coming back must be the toughest bit, would you say?
I think just go along the flat is the hardest bit, because on the downhill it's really easy, but then on the uphill you could just extend your legs and then it's like running on a downhill. But then on the straights you have to find the right place to put your foot, and it's just straight, so then it's harder.
What's the longest distance you've run?
I don't know.
What would you like to run?
A marathon.
What, maybe next year? Few years.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio, and well done.
Thank you.
Rutland Radio.
It's Rutland Radio at breakfast time. I'm Rob Pisani. Now, Alan Gray has been in to see us a lot of times over the years with his Lions Club connections, but today we're talking about something a little bit different. You're fundraising again for Make-A-Wish on Thursday in Uppingham.
That's correct. My wife has been a passionate volunteer for Make-A-Wish now for about 14 years, and quite naturally I get roped in as well. In the last 15 years since retiring, I have been very fortunate to be able to travel extensively, some fairly usual places but some also fairly unusual places. And I do a couple of illustrated talks which get a lot of pull from various local organisations. And one of these talks is about my trip to Mongolia back in 2015.
And you did this talk at the Rutland Showground, and I know it was so successful, and this is really, it's come off the back of that, the Uppingham talk on Thursday.
That's correct, Rob. My mate Cornelius, a well-known lad from Uppingham, came along and saw it at the showground and was so taken by it that he said, could I put it on again and do it in Uppingham? So we're doing that this Thursday. That's the 11th of October at the Uppingham Town Hall. Entry is free, but donations, of course, would be much appreciated in aid of Make-A-Wish. There is also a beer and wine bar again. Donations appreciated for that as well.
And tell us about Make-A-Wish, the organisation. I mean, it is basically granting wishes to sick children, isn't it? That's the crux of it.
That is absolutely correct. Make-A-Wish is an international charity now, and actually had their regional offices in Oakham, which is how my wife got hooked up with them about 14 years ago. Make-A-Wish create one true wish for children between the ages of 3 and 17 who suffer from life-threatening conditions. Sometimes terminal, but many times not. So that's why we say life-threatening.
And Mongolia as a place. You know, when you're looking through the travel brochure or you're browsing the internet for somewhere to go, why Mongolia? How did you actually end up there?
I've been to a number of remote places. I've been to Nepal several times and trekked in Nepal. I've recently trekked in Bhutan. I've walked in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. So I'm always on the lookout for somewhere iconic. And I'd seen quite a lot of images and films and videos about the nomadic people who practice their tradition of hunting with golden eagles, and it was just so much of a pull. And as a keen photographer, it was somewhere I wanted to go and take some of those photographs myself.
So anyone, I guess, interested in the world around us, anyone interested in wildlife as well, it ticks both those boxes.
Absolutely. I spent 4 days actually with a nomadic family, and we did actually go out with them on horseback. Well, I was actually on foot. And we watched them actually fly and hunt with their eagles. And we also spent the weekend at an eagle hunting festival where the nomadic people come together and practice their horsemanship skills, their eagle hunting skills, and generally have a knees up.
So you must have had a few gasps in the audience then when you were sharing all this last time.
I think people are really taken with the photographs. I mean, you don't have to be a great photographer to get some good images out there, because the scenery and the people out there are just so photogenic.
So it's Thursday night, Uppingham Town Hall at 7 o'clock, and as Alan said, free entry, and there's beer and wine bar, but the more you donate, the more appreciation you'll get for Make-A-Wish. And Alan Gray, thanks very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Rob. Thank you.
Rutland Radio's Best Bits on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm Simon Paul Mutzars, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Citizens Advice Rutland. Thank you for joining me today, Simon. You've popped in to tell us all about the Healthy Grant Scheme.
I have, yes. Yeah? The County Council's Healthy Rutland Grant Scheme is now open for business. So this is a scheme, a grant funding scheme that's open to community and voluntary sector organisations in the county. It's open to not-for-profit organisations, to parish councils, to town councils, to a variety of groups. All the eligibility criteria are on the website, by the way, in terms of organisations. The real sole intention of this is to improve the health and well-being of Rutland residents. So we're looking for a variety of projects, and we're suggesting a variety of projects. Could include things like green space activity around physical activity or mental health. Could include walking, so buggy walks maybe, or health walks generally, dementia walks, clubs around isolation issues, a whole raft of activities, many of which I'm sure we haven't even thought of yet, but I'm sure the good folk of Rutland will have considerably more ideas than I have around that. The reason for coming to see you today is we do have a number of rounds of grant funding, the first of which ends on the 30th of November. So really keen to get folk aware of the scheme and to get folk potentially bidding as early as possible. We are providing a deal of support for organisations to shape their ideas and fill in the application forms. We will provide training on how to evaluate your activity and how to complete application forms as well, but one-to-one support is also available. There are, as I said, 2 other funding rounds. I think the second is in February next year and the third in May. What I would say, though, is whilst we are absolutely reserving money for the first 2 rounds, if we've spent the budget by the end of the second, there won't be a third. It's unlikely that there will be a third. So just a suggestion to all that, if this fits, then to get your skates on effectively.
So if so different charities or organisations in Rutland, if they have an idea and they think, okay, could do with a bit of money to do this project, do this idea, like you said, maybe boogie walking or green space, then they should contact.
They should contact. So the telephone number for contacts is 01572 725 805, and we'll make appointments for support if people do need to support. People may well have their ideas fully formed and be able to go straight to an application process, but we also have some dedicated training sessions available as well. The first of which is almost upon us. So it's the 18th of October in Oakham. We have a training session on how to write a funding application. So again, ring that number 725 805 to book a place on that session, but we do have support that's available outside of that, the formality of that session. We also have another session on the 12th of November, which will be in Uppingham, which is around how to evaluate your application, because obviously we, the County Council, and the funders, I should mention the funders, Public Health Grant and also the Better Care Fund, we're keen to understand what local activity makes a difference in terms of the health and well-being of local residents. So we need to see some form of evaluation within the application forms themselves. The detail, the application forms are all online. The general detail, all the things that I've just mentioned are online, and it's it's www.rutlandwellbeing.org.uk. Everything's on the website.
In terms of the amount of the grants, is it set amounts or?
So we are saying that we are looking for grants up to £10,000. I anticipate the funders are encouraging applications that might be smaller than that. So potentially up to £1,000 just to get a real sense of seed funding for smaller ideas. But yeah, anything up to £10,000 is within scope. But it is a limited pot of money, as ever these days. So it's a limited pot of money. A maximum of £10,000, bids of £1,000, absolutely, it would be encouraged.
And how is it decided? Is it the people that get in there first, or is it the most worthy causes?
So there is eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria, so people looking at the application form will be able to see how we are going to be scoring that. There is a panel of folk that will be looking at those application forms, and that panel will include officers of the County Council, public health, and also community representatives.
And how long will it take after the application to then
really quickly? So I think so. Once we've sat down with the panel, we looked out. I think 30th of November. We sit down with the panel. A week or so after that, again, those timescales are published. So that detail is in the packs that people can access online. We'd be looking to get information out to people by the middle of December, because we really want to get activity up and running as quickly as possible.
And why should people do it? Why is it important for Rutland, the new Healthy Rutland grant scheme?
I think this opportunity gives people the ability to get funds for the activity that they want to do in the spaces they want to do it. I think in my travels around Rutland in my first year, the county is alive with ideas. The county is alive with authentic ideas that are rooted and coming from people, the kind of things that they want to do. And I think those ideas are absolutely consistent with the bigger strategy that government and others have around the monies we have available or don't have available for so it's preventative stuff. And I think a lot of those ideas, a lot of those thoughts are already existent within communities in Rutland. So people are doing this stuff already. The great thing about this is we have an opportunity to support that.
And it's charities and non-profit organisations.
Charities, not for profit, parish, town. So a lot of grassroots organisations, a lot of organisations that are close to people.
Lovely. Thank you very much for popping in.
Pleasure.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Robert Boyle. I'm one of the deputy lieutenants in Rutland, and I've been running the World War I commemorations for the whole county since the build-up in 2013 up to the present day.
And we're speaking literally with the rehearsals going on for this afternoon's event, where the three colleges are coming together. We've also got All Saints clock chiming in the background, but Hallelujah sung by one of the choirs just in the background. I suppose for the college students, it must, from World War I point of view, think of all the casualties, and some of them were almost as young as some of those who are in there today.
I think that's probably true, but the choir, if I could just point this out to you, is a combined choir from all three secondary schools, Uppingham Community College, Catmos and Casterton. So they've all come together with their respective teachers of music. And they have, it's the enthusiasm of the directors of music who've worked so hard to put so much into it that it's really been what has created the real success of it.
And I imagine a very thought-provoking afternoon for everyone involved, particularly with the three colleges working together, as you say.
Most certainly. And I think that because they actually learn about the World War I in this particular year 7, it hopefully gives them just a little bit of a seed that's been sown to make them want to be hopefully a little bit more inquisitive about what's actually happened. But not just the whole thing, but probably within Rutland itself, because there were 603 fatalities that didn't come back from Rutland.
This really marks the first of the events, and things will gather pace over the next few weeks as we head towards Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday, which combine this year, but a huge amount of events actually happening in the county.
There's lots, and it's been frenetic, the energy and the devotion of time and the willingness of everybody to want to make this work. And the centenary is a pivotal year. After all, when they went to war in 1914, it was meant to be the war to end all wars. It's never been. And reconciliation is the one thing that really needs to be looked at. And however much one talks about it, the nations have never really reconciled themselves in so many ways.
Robert Boyle, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio and explaining more. You were telling me the Year 7 winners of each of the colleges actually get to read their
That's
work.
absolutely
about
right.
World War I
And their work. I've read all three pieces. They're very moving, and it's a credit to the teaching staff who've guided them and taught them and teach them so well in Rutland. Thank you, and it's a pleasure.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
So I'm Rory Gibson. I'm brewer at the Grainstall Brewery.
And how does it feel actually taking the Tony Davis mantle on to the next generation?
That's generally a right honour, a real privilege to carry on something that was started many years ago by Tony and Mike Davies, who in fact is my grandfather, working in such a family-orientated business. Now that Tony's son William Davis has taken over, I really feel there's a place of home here for me.
That's incredible to think, actually. You're helping to continue the history that started, of course, at Ruddles, and then this grain store became vacant in the 90s, and now we have something that, you know, we've seen today is just as historic as something that was built 100, 200 years ago.
Still very much so part of Oakham. Coming into the grain store, I always knew it as a child, not living in the area, seeing it in its early days when I was probably about 5 years old, when they were doing the pointing in the walls. Never knew many, many years later that I would actually become an integral part of creating the beer and the process. And learning from Tony, it's nothing you can ever go back on. It's now a life passion for me. Maintaining the beer and seeing everyone enjoy it on a daily basis makes it something very, very special to me.
And it's science.
Oh, so much science, so much microscience. I never resented a beer more when learning about it. The piles and piles of papers on how to make it. Sure, it's a simple process. It really, really isn't. But we've managed to make it here at the grain store. We've managed to maintain it. Tony, the massive science man that was behind it, really brought out these recipes, and it's holding on to them, keeping them safe, which is what Richard Phoenix and myself are now doing here at the grain store.
So it all starts at 6:30 one morning. 7 days later, it's ready to be stored for a week, and then it goes off.
Then it goes off, and then we have to do the very important taste testing first. It must be tasted. Somebody has to put themselves forward to do this, and we relentlessly do it on a daily basis. It's brilliant. Very good for the health, may I say. But, you know, it's important that we taste our beers before they go out. They have to be the top-notch standard that we're expected every time to deliver. And they are. And that's what we've found in our process here at the grain store. Granted, it takes extra time to do it, but it really gives us that superior quality and flavour.
And how far are your beers sampled and sold? Because, you know, we know this is a comparatively small brewery to the national kind of industries, but it makes such an impact around this area.
Certainly around this area, we've got many freehold pubs that take on our beer, and it's great to see when you go for a night out and there's a grain store beer on the bar. But peripheral-wise, we get up to Derby, certainly out to Kings Lynn, down to Milton Keynes, and we even touch the outskirts of Birmingham. So there's a massive circle, and pubs are forever changing. People are developing their ideas and tastes, so there's always opportunity out there for us to get involved and show people how beer is really made.
And the reason I actually came here was your recent award, the best home brew pub for the 5th year running. The best home brew pub for the 5th year running.
Well, there's not many out there. There's not many out there, so I'm not saying it was an easy win, because there are certain rivals, but especially in the brewing world there are no rivals. If anybody is an up-and-coming budding brewer, we really, really enjoy seeing the new beers out there on the market, the new tastes and flavours, other people's own ideas behind the beers. Certainly there is no
It's fine, don't worry. You're saying
no
there's
backlash or anything behind. We really need to see the new beers on the market, and we welcome those people with open arms. We find in our beer market today there are so many different varieties out there. Sometimes it can become a bit confusing.
Essentially, this process has been handed down for the next generation really to continue to maintain. This is something that's so synonymous with Rutland now.
As long as we keep it traditional and certainly not archaic, we maintain those ideals as a traditional sense of beer. There are avenues out there that will explore new and exciting beers, but they will have their stage. Traditional ale will always remain.
And the way you make it, it's machines that were designed by those who created it. Tony and Mike designed these machines that make it happen. Still now, they're still in use. That's the kind of foundation that you're still working with, and I guess you won't change it.
Certainly not. If we change our materials, if we change our equipment, I mean, shows testament to my grandfather's welding. 25 years later, it's still in use. And Tony's design still works perfectly well. A brewer of our size creating such uniform drinks. If we were to change any of that, we might suffer a change of flavour, a change in taste.
And it's the same yeast that's been making it all this time. That's the most fascinating thing.
Exactly the same fantastic yeast that we used 25 years ago is still in operation, recirculating it, recultivating it. And that's what gives the grain store beers their completely individual taste. You won't find that anywhere else in the beer market.
Rutland Radio.
Hello, my name's Tony Otley, and I am the Stop Smoking Advisor for Stop Smoking Rutland. Stop Smoking Rutland is the organisation which delivers stop smoking services to Rutland residents. We are part of the Rutland Community Wellbeing Service, and we are based at the Citizens Advice Bureau office at 56 High Street in Oakham.
So, Tony, we're about a third of the way through Stoptober, October. What would you say to people if they've decided to try and give up smoking this month and they're feeling a bit of a dip? What would you say to them to keep going?
Okay, what I would say is giving up smoking is the biggest health benefit of anything that you could possibly do. You just have to bear in mind that smoking kills hundreds of thousands of people every year throughout the world, and giving up smoking can have immediate health effects. And also, even if you have been smoking for a very long time, it's never too late to give up. There's health benefits. Even if you've smoked for 40 years or more, you are having a very big improvement to your health and well-being.
So you're based just on the High Street in Oakham. If anyone wants to pop in and get some information or advice, the team are always there.
Right, yes. We actually run the Stop Smoking sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but there's always somebody in the bureau during normally open hours who will be able to take your details and make an appointment. Alternatively, phone up on 01572 725 805, or you can apply online through the Rutland Wellbeing website.
And Stoptober is mainly about smoking, but it could be a time of year to give up maybe drinking and other things as well that I'm sure Citizens Advice could help with.
Right, I mean, we don't specifically do the stop smoking, the stop drinking service. Mm-hmm. We are paid to do the stop smoking service, but Stoptober as a national campaign does cover stopping drinking as well. There is help available if you sort of contact. I would say the best thing if you're thinking about the Stoptober in general with the other health campaigns is to look on the website. If you just Google Stoptober, then it will bring you to the Public Health England website. And also on there is links to Facebook pages. There's a app you can download for your phone. There is other help available as ongoing support through sort of like chat networks, phone lines, etc. So if you're needing any help on that, then do look online, and that can be in addition to the face-to-face help and support that you get from the Stoptober Rutland service.
Did you used to smoke? Were you ever a smoker?
I was indeed. I smoked for about 40 years and gave up about 3 years ago. When we took over the Stop Smoking service, I was already working at the Citizens Advice Bureau, and because I was now only working part-time and I was available to be able to do this job, I then did the training course to get registered as a Stop Smoking advisor, and a lot of people find it very useful that I am helping them, that I have been a smoker myself, so I fully understand the difficulties and the pain that you go through with giving up smoking and the type of pressures and the temptations. And so I'm not doing it from just some theoretical perspective. I am using my own experience on this.
Are you glad you gave it up?
Oh, yes. I mean, even smoking for so long, I do find now I've got so much more energy. I don't get the sort of like problems as much with in the winter with bronchitis, coughs and colds don't have the same effect as they used to, and I just feel so much more energy. I think you'll find that if you take stopping smoking as an inspiration for changing your old pattern of lifestyle, you can then look at things like getting more exercise, looking at your weight, else you're eating, etc., and try and incorporate it into an all new way of looking at things, and then you stand more chance of actually giving up completely for good, not relapsing, because it's part of a new life attitude that you get.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention that we haven't covered?
As I say, we offer a personalised service. Then we can be several weeks of supply of free nicotine replacement products for people who need. So there's no cost to you in whether you're eligible for free prescriptions or not. We also, if you decide to do the route of actually using the drug treatment, that has to be prescribed by a GP, but they don't do any of the ongoing support and that, and they only prescribe after they've been to see us, and we then have checked them out, and then we give the referral for the doctor to give the prescriptions. But you are expected then to keep coming back to us for the regular support sessions. They have found that using a combination of various stop smoking aids, such as nicotine replacement therapy, combined with the one-to-one support services, can increase the chances of giving up smoking for good about 4 times. So don't delay, get in touch with us, get your appointment booked.
Thank you very much for popping in, Tony.
Okay, thanks.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Hello, Darren. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Well, you've run across ice. You've run in the desert, back-to-back marathons. This should be tame compared to what you've done before. But tell us what makes it a lot harder normally. For doing the half marathon. How are you making it harder?
Right, well, so this one, obviously, I've run that half marathon a few times, and it's great because local to Peterborough, it's our local race. But to up the ante a little bit, just because it's sitting nestled in amongst a series of challenges I'm taking on, I thought I couldn't just run the half marathon as it is. So off the back of a challenge we just did a couple of weeks ago, I'm keeping hold of a 45-pound backpack that I'm going to take around with me for the half. And so I might well be all right just to achieve it and get to the end, but the bigger challenge, I want to try and obviously push myself to my limits, so I'm going to see if I can chase a 2-hour mark with that pack on, which is going to be a big ask, to be honest. It's going to be tough.
You've been training this week, and I know you've found getting that time really difficult to achieve.
Yes, yeah, it was a bit of a tough one. I sort of did half the distance, did 6.5 miles with the pack on, and it was just outside an hour. Started off strong the first few miles, but then later, just the fatigue gets you because my heart rate was racing, and you can't help but have to kind of ease off, have a few little walking breaks. So it was a bit of a push, and that's only halfway. So not too sure.
And you've been an inspiration to me with the amazing challenges that you've done. And I'm very much, when I run, I'm very amateur in my style. But, it's all about getting round and all that. What would you say to people actually who've never run the half marathon before, or indeed doing the 5K fun run for the first time?
I'd say if you're just getting started off, the main thing is don't put too much pressure on yourself. Certainly, take the keyword fun run, then just go and enjoy it. And even with half, there'll be people out there on the start line with me sort of aiming for that 2-hour mark, which is a popular goal. Just kind of go out and if you go for it on the day, but just enjoy it and ease up and don't bust a gut too much. Just make the most of it and embrace the crowds as well, because it's always great. The Peterborough crowds come out and they're awesome. Really helps you lift your chin up and keep going. And
you're raising money once again for the Stamford charity Anna's Hope. Tell us what that means to you, because you've raised thousands for them over the years.
Yeah, since I did the Marathon des Sables in 2015, that went really well, obviously for the fundraising, and it's been great to be part of Anna's Hope, and in the kind of extreme style of events and challenges I take on, it gives them an opportunity to use me as a press release and get greater awareness. So It's here's this clown who's now running across a frozen lake in Mongolia. Stick that in your magazine, and it's great. So off the back of that, Anna's Hope get more awareness, and then there's a ripple effect. So then more people start raising for them, whether it's a couple of £100 here or 50 quid there. It all adds up. So it's kind of more powerful, that in effect, than just the money I raise. The bigger impact is that awareness. So it's great to be able to have that impact from putting myself through this ridiculous challenge and things like this.
And you were talking to Stanford WI at Barn Hill earlier this week. I guess that was a warm reception, was it?
Yeah, I wasn't too sure because it was a different crowd. I do quite a few talks, and often it's for, say, school leavers or sort of a younger crowd, the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, that kind of thing. So obviously the WI, a few older ladies there, probably don't fancy running across deserts and mountains and such, but it was really well received, mainly for the messages I try to get across, the learnings, the lessons that I've taken through getting your mind set and not being daunted by huge goals, and just going through that simple process of kind of literally and metaphorically just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you will get to that end goal. So I had some great feedback from that, and it was really humbling at the end. Actually, a lady gave thanks and praise to all the things I've been doing, and yeah, it took me back a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing when you actually stop and take stock of all the challenges you've actually been involved with. But good luck for Sunday for the Perkins Great Eastern Run, the half marathon. 45 kilogram weight in sub 2 hour time if you can do it.
Well, 45 pound weight. I won't go 45 kilos. So 20 kilos, 45 pounds thereabouts. It's kind of the SS selection weight for part of that process, and yeah, 45 pounds, that'll do. I'll do my best. See what we can do on the day.
Rutland Radio.
So you may well have seen the posters. It is back only for one night only this time, because you have to say it that way around, don't you? It's a night at the museum too. Mick Barker and Lizzie Jordan are in it. So this is kind of a variety show as per the last one, Mick?
Oh yes, I was here last year. I watched a marvellous show first time, and it's an honour to be asked to do the first character in this one.
And Lizzie, you were in last year and you're in lots of things in this.
Well, some of the characters are coming back from last year. So I'm an old lady, I'm an actual reporter, I'm a medium who's brilliant, not, and a cleaner. In fact, the cleaners is sort of following through from last year. So we're doing a few sketches with my mum in the play, Little Gillian Luck. And yeah, the story kind of follows on.
But if you saw last year's, then it does follow on. But if you didn't see last year's, it doesn't matter.
Well, this year, because as Liz has just said, she plays the part of a medium, this year her husband has been resurrected as myself, playing Billy, which has been a very, very good sketch to do. And I think the audience will like that one.
It's that kind of show, actually, where your rehearsals must be just hilarious at times.
Oh, it's just one laugh after another. We've had a lot of corpsing in rehearsal, but that won't happen on the night. We've got all the laughter out the way ourselves so that we can perform.
And tell us the cause that you're supporting this time.
We're actually supporting the Leicestershire Autistic Society, and you can, if you'd like to donate, Leicestershire Autistic Society at gmail.com.
And tickets are available from all over Rutland.
Yeah, tickets you can get from Oakham Wines. We got tickets.com, Oakham Wines, Falcom Hotel, Uppingham, Oliver's of Uppingham.
And it's £8 wherever you get them from.
Yep.
Fabulous. So it is literally just one show. So if people miss it, they'll miss it.
If they miss it, they miss it. Yes, just one night only. And if you didn't see it last year, there'll be something for everybody this year.
I want to treat the family out to a good night out and a good laugh. For a good cause as well. 19th of October, Oakham Museum.
It's a night of mirth at the museum too. Liz Jordan and Mick Barker, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio. Lovely to see you both.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
It's Rutland Radio at breakfast time. I'm Rob Pisani. You may be aware this year that it's 100 years since the end of World War One, and also that Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday actually coincides. Now, in our area, there is such a wealth of events that are planned, and there's plenty of ways to find out all about them, including us here at Rutland Radio. Dr. Sarah Finesse is Rutland's Lord Lieutenant. Now, you've actually been part of a committee that's been organising as much of this as possible.
Yes, I have. The committee has been in existence for 4 years. They've had over 20 people involved as committee members, but there are many more people in the community organising events. It's a real tribute to Rutland's effort that we've got so many going on, and it's such a breadth of events. We've obviously got remembrance services and tributes to the fallen and wreath laying and so on, and beacons, but we've also got a wonderful community play, The Rutlanders Return, and I hear that the first showing of that on the 25th of October has just sold out, but there are 3 more, one at Kendry Barracks, one at Rutland and one at the County Museum, and that should be fantastic. It's been written specially for Rutland, taking the stories of Rutlanders, and has specially commissioned music too. The Poppy Project, of course, has won everybody's imaginations. I think it's so lovely that people from the youngest children in primary schools and some nursery schools, I think, have been making poppies, right up to the elderly in old people's homes and right across the board. And I think if people invest by making something like that, they will want to support it. And this sort of brings the act of remembrance home to people in an interesting way. So I'm really looking forward to Sunday, October the 21st at 2:00, when we will be launching this at the castle. And there should be a sea. We've made over 10,000 poppies, which is absolutely fantastic, and a great tribute to Vicky Goddard and her big team, who have worked so hard taking clay to all sorts of places all over Rutland.
And actually, this is something unique to Rutland that's going to be a sea of poppies like no one has ever seen before. There's going to be village memorials as part of it as well.
Yes, and I think what's really interesting is that our poppies, because each one has been individually made, will all be slightly different. So the ones in London were all the same, so it will have a different character. And I know that afternoon on the 21st, there will be the Military Wives Choir. I think there will be a First World War pack horse, or a horse looking like one. It should be a really exciting event, and the castle grounds will be transformed.
Now, I know all the churches are going to be illuminated nearer the time. There was also a bid to get everyone the bells all rung on the 11th as well, which they've been recruiting more bell ringers for.
They have, and I think that will happen. I know that there's been a problem because there's a sort of 18-month waiting list for muffles, but people have been doing all sorts of things to make sure that they renovated muffles so that we can have muffled peals, and that will take place across the county. And beacons will be lit in Oakham and in Uppingham and in Barradon and in Barnsdale. So that should be rather nice. So across the county there will be beacons lit at 7:00 on the evening of the 11th of November.
And the church is going to be illuminated from the outside as well.
Yes, it should be really spectacular. And many villages have bought poppies for lampposts. There are going to be silhouettes of soldiers across the county. Everybody is joining in, and I think it's partly because we are so proud of our military heritage in Rutland. You know, we've had a long history of the RAF, and now we have the Army, and we know the benefits that the military bring to us, and there's a very good symbiotic relationship between the military and the community, and we work closely together, and I think that's very important to us all, and I think that's partly why we've taken this so seriously.
We've listed all the events on our website for Rutland and surrounds, as always we do, but also you've put a programme together which people can pick up, and literally so that they don't miss anything, because there's just so much.
Absolutely. And of course there are more things on the website, but the programme we're very pleased with. We've made it a nice size so it can sort of fit on a fridge or go in a handbag or a pocket or something, and you've got it all there, because it's important that people realise just how much we're doing. We've got concerts, we've got a centenary Greenery Field being opened at Barleythorpe Way in Oakham. There are all sorts of exhibitions. Uppingham Town Hall will have a weeping window of knitted poppies, which is incredible. The Field of Remembrance will be there at All Saints Church in Oakham, and every person who died, every one of the 651 fallen from Rutland will be marked there, and their names will be on a cross. Robert Boyle and Mike Frisbee have worked very hard on this, and it will be sorted in terms of the villages, so each village can go along and look at how many people from their particular village died, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. But what's super is that there's just such a variety of things, and there's a lantern walk from All Saints Church to the castle at 4:30 on Armistice Day. There are films based on World War I, there are lectures, there's lots of musical concerts. That's super.
And from your point of view, I see you at so many things. I always thought I was quite ubiquitous around the area, but actually, and you took over the Lord Lieutenancy, it's here, there and everywhere for you, and your diary must be absolutely packed from, one event to the other.
It is. It's great fun. And what I love is the variety of things. So yesterday we were at the school service, which wasn't open to the public simply because we couldn't get any more bodies into All Saints Church. I think there must have been 600 children from Catmos, Castleton College, and from Uppingham Community College. They were absolutely rammed in. There was such a sense of excitement and a buzz about the place. And for many of those children, it was probably the first time they'd been in a church like that. Some of them were saying that as they came in. We had wonderful music. It was really good. And I must say I compliment Robert Boyle for organising that. And it was so exciting. But I love my job because of the variety. So one day I'll be doing that. Tonight I'm going to the Rural Achievement Awards. I'm going to a trustee meeting this morning. There are all sorts of different things. I've been involved in 100th birthday parties, which I find extraordinary great fun. It's really lovely to go and represent Her Majesty and say happy birthday.
And I suppose, in a way, this variety of World War I events, from your point of view, representing our royal family, your way of being able to represent them at so many of these events as well.
I know that they would have loved to have been here, and of course they have been in tremendous demand across the country over this particular armistice, but it is very important and they regard it as very important. And of course both His Royal Highness Prince William and Prince Harry both were serving officers, so they know very well many of their initiatives. I know Prince Harry has done lots of work with military people who've been hurt and need rehabilitation, and Prince William has started something for mental health with soldiers. I mean, they're doing an awful lot to help the military, and I think that's very important. Of course, it's very relevant in this county.
So Rutland's programme of commemoration is available all over, really, I guess, from village shops to Oakham Castle to the council offices.
It will be. It's hot off the press. I got it yesterday. I'm so pleased with it. And my deputies and I will be touring all across Rutland, trying to put it in places so that people can find it.
Don't miss the programme of events. There are so many. We've just highlighted a few today. And Dr. Sarah Furness, Lord Lieutenant of Rutland, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
Thank you very much.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Helen Sims. I'm the head teacher of Uffington Primary School.
And 170 years ago, it all started in the classroom that you still teach in for year 5 and 6.
That's right. We understand that there was a school in Uffington from 1812, but in 1848, the Earl of Lindsay actually funded the building of the current Victorian school. The original school, it comprised of one schoolroom and the head teacher's schoolhouse, which of course is where I should live, but it's a little bit too close to home. So now it houses our officers and staff room. We have had some later additions. In 1997, a Barnack, Ragstone and Collie Western roof extension was added to the school, and we still also have one mobile classroom which houses our foundation stage and the dining room on the school grounds as well.
So what do you know of how big the school was back in 1848?
Well, certainly I have seen records, and we do have logbooks that go back to the opening of the school, that there were probably less than 20 children in the school when it was first opened. We also know that during the summer months, and particularly in late summer in September, numbers tended to drop dramatically because the children were actually out working on the land rather than attending school.
So about how many children do you have now?
We have 81 children at present. The school can actually hold just over 100. We have 4 classes at the school at the present time.
And what is it, do you think, that makes this school special? Because village schools do have a kind of special something, don't they?
They do, and I've been the head teacher here for 18 years, and I would say it would be very hard to walk away from a place like this. We have a very strong sense of family. The older children play with the younger ones, and we really see ourselves as, and we talk about our Uffington School family, and as a church school that extends to our families and to the local community as well.
And today, everyone's been dressed up. We're just seeing a Victorian little one just going past.
Yes, we decided that we would try and represent Uffington School through the ages, and so we've asked our foundation stage and key stage 1 children and staff to dress as children from the Victorian era. Our year 3 and 4 children have dressed as children from the war years, and we know that we had evacuees from Hull at Uffington School in the 1940s. And then year 5 and 6 have really enjoyed dressing as youngsters from the 60s, 70s and 80s. And am I allowed to say that the dress I'm wearing is vintage 80s? I really have had it for 30 years.
Fabulous stuff. Well, let's talk to those who are getting in the groove here at Uffington. So you're year 5, 6. What are your names?
George, Sam, Daisy, William.
Tell us about your outfits. There's a lot of flower power and stuff going on.
Well, I'm a hippie because there was hippies in the 60s and I was dressing up from the 60s. I'm a hippie too.
And you've got the medallion on as well, so you're kind of verging slightly into the 70s maybe.
Yes, and I didn't actually buy any of this. This is all from home, so...
All stuff that you had, yeah. What about you?
I'm a hippie as well.
It's a good time for girls, isn't it, in terms of actually the sort of outfits that you were able to wear?
Yeah.
Does it feel quite different to normal school uniform?
Yes.
Because you've got the bandana on, you've got, the flowery dress and everything.
Yeah. I'm a hippie as well.
Has that been kind of the most popular look, do you think, in your class?
Yeah.
And what do you think, actually, about being at a school that's celebrating like this?
It's quite cool to dress up from stuff we have at home. And
It's kind of hard for you to imagine, isn't it, that this all started so long ago?
Yeah.
How do you think the school has changed since you've been here?
We got lockers.
That's kind of the latest new development. Does that feel quite grown up? That's very secondary school, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know you've got other celebrations this week as well.
Yes, we have. We've got a big celebration on Thursday. The children are going to start with a celebration lunch provided by our caterers, including a celebration birthday cake, we understand. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be joined by the Bishop of Grantham and the Diocesan Director of Education for a service of Thanksgiving in Uffington Church. And we are going to be joined by many ex-pupils, governors and staff, and we would love as many people from the local community, whether they have connections with Uffington School or not, to come and join us at 2:00 at St Michael and All Angels on Thursday afternoon for a real celebration and a service of thanksgiving for the life of our school.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
It's Rutland Radio on Friday morning. I'm Rob Pisani. I don't know whether you were watching on Wednesday night, but I'm so getting into The Apprentice this series, particularly because we have a real affinity with it. Khadija Khalifa is one of the chosen 16, now down to 14, that have to impress Lord Sugar. You might have seen her in the blue dress first week, red dress this week, and wow, you have had 2 massive weeks on this show. And I suppose the hardest thing must be the fact that, it's the whole room is full of leaders. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I had to be so bossy and strong-minded in this week's episode, is because, it's really hard to try and control a bunch of people that are very clever, very, clued up, but equally very loud and want their voice heard. So it's difficult to be project manager, to be honest.
And you're all out to impress Lord Sugar, ultimately.
Yeah.
Even seeing the tease last week, I feared for you. And the whole of this week's episode, I feared for you, because you are really up against it in so many ways.
Yeah. Last week, I think Lord Sugar saw what I did. Jackie was quite manipulative and Sarah didn't work as a team. And I'm glad that came across on the show. And I just kind of point out the obvious. I say it how it is. This week, Frank got a lot of stick for not being a leader, and I got a lot of stick for being a leader. So it kind of feels like sometimes you can't do anything right. So I just did what I thought was best, and we won at the end of the day.
And Jackie, putting herself out there and saying, OK, I want this comic in all your outlets, and really being really bold about it, that really helped as well for the girls this week.
Yeah, it did, but equally you can't sell something if it's a bad product.
No.
So, yes, grateful, terrific. It was W.H. Smith, so ultimately I would hope that they would be making a big order. Regardless of that, we would have won anyway. Well done, Jackie, terrific. But I didn't want that to take away from the fact that the whole team worked amazingly, not just Jackie, created a comic that would have sold itself.
Now, we were on the last year's Mercury Business Awards stage together. You were Business Person of the Year for your cleaning company, which you still operate. Why did you decide to get in with a chance of being on The Apprentice? And there must have been thousands, actually, that were whittled down to the final 16. That must have been amazing enough.
Yeah, I think 40,000, 50,000 people applied. And the audition process was quite intense. To get down to one of 16, you know, and then not to be the first one fired is always great. It was intense, but I applied because I thought if you want to be successful, you want to be credible, you want to make changes in this world, you need a platform. And I've always been a fan of The Apprentice. So I thought, you know what, I'll try. Wasn't sure I'd get on, and now I have. I'm so glad. I'm so lucky.
And actually sitting in that boardroom opposite the three of them, that must be really quite intimidating. But at the same time, you must actually build up some kind of professional respect and friendship over the time as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the scariest thing. You feel like your heart's in your stomach, you know, like you're sitting there, especially being project manager in week 2. You know, I felt like I needed to step up because nobody else wanted to. That was quite a bold move, but also really scary. So I was scared for myself, you know, one wrong mistake and I was gone.
And the ultimate prize is to work with Lord Sugar. What an inspiration he's been for business over so many years.
I know. A billionaire, an actual real-life billionaire. So that's quite cool. To say that someone like that is saying my name on TV and knows who I am, it's amazing. You know, when I was growing up, going to school in Alton, you know, with just hanging out with my friends in Peterborough, I didn't think one day someone like Lord Sugar would know who Khadija Khalifa is. But he does.
And so do we. And thanks very much for being on Rutland Radio. And we look forward to catching up with you as the series progresses.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Nadine Callaghan. I'm an occupational therapist in the community mental health team in Oakham.
And tell us about this new drop-in that people have got on a Tuesday here at the Congregational Hall.
It's essentially it's a basic cafe to provide a service for anyone really, specifically for those with mental health problems, but not exclusively, to come in, have a sit down and a chat with people to engage with in a very relaxed and informal environment. But also that when they're feeling a little bit ready, when they're on the road to recovery, they might want to help out a little bit in the cafe. And they can start off by serving some of the drinks or the soup or taking on a little bit more of a role. And then hopefully as the cafe develops, they can be a little bit more a part of figuring out how it's going to develop and in what ways they would like it to develop and take a bit more of an organisational role if they feel up to it. The reason I wanted it to be that way was because while there are volunteering opportunities in the town, quite a lot of the time they expect a certain level of commitment, understandably. But a lot of our patients, while they begin to feel ready to have a go at volunteering, they're not able to commit to something on a regular basis because they quite rightly say they can't predict how they're going to be. So they want to have an opportunity so they can have a go when they're feeling up to it. But if they're not feeling up to it, that's okay. They can just stay here, take part in whatever happens to be going on at the time.
At the start of our chat, you said community mental health team based in Oakham.
Yes.
That must, even people hearing that must actually breathe a sigh of relief that help is on their doorstep.
Yes, we're here. People can be referred to us via their GP. So if there's anyone who's having some mental health problems, they need to go and speak to their GP. Their GP will consider what they need. There is a service called Let's Talk Wellbeing that will kind of hope to catch people in the early stages, and if it's a fairly straightforward issue. If it's something that requires a little bit more input, then the GP will refer to us. We cover the whole of Rutland and Melton. So if they live in the villages, they still have access to that.
And statistically, we talk about the 1 in 4. I've heard people even say it might be 2 out of 3. It's, mental health issues are something that lots of people encounter in their lives, and lots of people you would never even know that they've actually been through that.
Yeah, it's probably a lot more widely experienced than the numbers demonstrate. There's an awful lot of people who suffer in silence and don't go to see their GP. Obviously, we'd recommend that they do. There is help out there if they want to. And, of course, mental health problems covers a wide range of issues, and fortunately for most, it's a short-term issue with usually a quite straightforward fix. But for other people, it's a little bit more complicated and a little bit more long-term. So mental health kind of covers the whole broad range of it.
And often it just starts with talking and interacting and opening up, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they need to access the appropriate treatment, but an awful lot of the recovery happens from doing these sorts of things. A lot of people say that it's been very meaningful for them. As an occupational therapist, my focus is about providing meaningful and purposeful activity, and coming and doing something like this is meaningful, and if it's something they're interested in, it has a purpose for them. And obviously if we can develop and expand on that, then we might be able to meet the needs of other people as well.
So as an occupational therapist, are you hoping ultimately the ultimate goal to get people back into work, maybe, that difficulties they've faced have stopped them doing that?
Ultimately, if they want to work, then yes, but it is down to whether they want to or not. But when we say occupational therapy, the word occupational means any kind of meaningful activity, so it doesn't have to be paid work. It can be volunteer work, or it can be just engaging in anything really that they find meaningful and purposeful.
And for some people it may just be, I guess, stepping out the house, picking up the phone, actually making that step. Yeah, popping along to the GP is probably the best first step that they can take. And actually the medical profession does listen more than ever.
Yes, I mean, obviously GPs are very stretched, but they know that they can refer to us if they need to. And of course there's the Let's Talk Wellbeing service, which has kind of been designed to kind of catch people and alleviate some of the pressures off community mental health teams and the GPs. And
how does that work? How do people access it? Again, through the doctor?
Again, through the GP, yeah. If they've got a fairly straightforward problem, they can speak to the GP, and the GP will refer them to Let's Talk Wellbeing. They'll carry out an assessment and either provide the treatment themselves over a short period of time. If it turns out to be a bit more complicated, then they will let the GP know to refer on to us. And that's how they access us.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.